after the college football playoff first round, there's a lot of chitter-chatter about what was right, what was wrong. I'll just say this. I was pumped that the world got to experience some home field advantage, and I was excited that one of these games, or a couple of these games, took place in cold climates. You know, like anytime you deem a national champion, it's always in a warm climate, always has been. And, you know, these Big Ten teams and us teams from the north, you know, they have to deal with, we're a bunch of SUVs. So you got a bunch of SUVs taking on like exotic cars in the warm in the national championship, and they've said, well, we've always dominated in the race. It's like, yeah, no shit. That's because the way we've had to be built to get through our entire season, to manage the weather that we have to go through, a little bit different than what you guys have to go. And I thought that was on display this past weekend. Now, I didn't just pick Ohio State to win because of the cold. I also picked it because I'm from the North. Sure. You know, and this is one of the first times, long times, where a North gets to host a situation. But the cold was very apparently an X factor in this game. I would like to say congrats to the Tennessee fans. You guys showed up and showed out. That was awesome. Yeah. That was awesome to see, legitimately. College game day showing up in the morning loud, obviously standing out there in a freezing-ass cold. And then they did invade that stadium. Now, I think it was about 30,000, so about 30% of the people there were Tennessee Volunteer fans, and they weren't given anything to cheer about, basically from jump all the way through the end of that particular game. And yeah, some of them were leaving before the game was over. I think they were about done being that cold and watching their team get their ass beat. But the Tennessee Volunteers fans, I think, were one of the biggest upsides of the entire college football playoff first round. Their team obviously on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, but all the home teams won, all the cold teams won, which was a big part of the convo going forward. Can't wait to see what happens next year, but now we're down to 8. And when you think about these quarterfinals matchup with Texas and Arizona State, everybody just assumes Texas is going to do well. Let's not let Scatterboo get rolling there at Arizona State. Ohio State, Oregon, a lot of people saying this should have been the national championship.
Potentially.
This game has already been played one time. It was very close. I think there were 7 different lead changes that ended, obviously, with Will Howard running out of time, then potentially going down to winning. Instead, Oregon remained undefeated on the season. They're a wagon, that Oregon team. Penn State taking on Boise State. Obviously, Ashton Genty has had a year that I think everybody would be wildly impressed by, no matter what conference you're from, no matter what school you represent. And then Penn State just beat the hell out of SMU. And Kevin Jennings, the quarterback for SMU, had a great year. When he got dropped in, they go undefeated. We talked to him on College Game Day before that game. A lot of us on the set who are from the cold and things like that, a little bit worried about how he looked cold and then seemed not to be really worried about it. I love that he was comfortable. I love that he was confident. I think he had 4 turnovers or something like that to end the game. SMU gets blown out. Penn State has a great game. And then Notre Dame beats Indiana. Closest game of the weekend.
It was.
27-17, closest game of the weekend. Everybody still has Indiana's name in their mouth, including Kirk Herbstreit, we'll talk about in the entirety in the second hour. Notre Dame has to take on a Georgia team that's rested, healthy, and got Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, a guy who was able to lose his consciousness, have his leg get bent back like Gumby, and still pop back up. That Bulldogs team is going to be ready. I think this Final 8 is going to be fantastic. I think when we get to the Final 4, it's going to be the right 4 teams. And inevitably, I think the right team is going to get crowned national champion. The conversation is, you know, these first rounds, it was all blowouts. These first rounds wasn't good matchup. These first rounds, there was nobody sticking around because of how good the game was. They were potentially just watching to celebrate the situation. Let's go to one half of the Hammer.
Dahn.
Cowboys AP tone. Everybody's saying the blowouts is the college football playoff committee's fault. What say you, my friend?
Yeah, a lot of people are putting on the playoff committee, and I mean those people could be right. We have no idea how games would have went if Bama or Ole Miss or South Carolina had gone in. Now, each of those teams had blemishes on their schedule, and that's why they were not in. They lost to inferior opponents. But no, I mean, it was disappointing because obviously you want great games, you want close games, but this is not something that hasn't happened in the past. I saw a tweet from Bud Elliott, who's from CBS, who put out 12 of the 20 first-round games when it was a 4-team playoff were 17 plus point margins of victory in those. So even just 4 games, the top 4 teams in the country were blowouts in the first round. Who was it? Joel Klatt put out a tweet about the 2023 first round of the NFL playoffs. They were all 17 plus margins of victory there too. So sometimes just in these first round games, when you have really good teams playing, teams that are good, who are playoff worthy, but sometimes just blowouts happen.
Yeah, and are you ever going to be able to get it right? And will any of these teams that are ranked lower and not that great show up in their biggest ways? We didn't see that from Tennessee at all.
Nope.
Indiana, we didn't see that from their offense that had been able to win and dominate against damn near everybody all season. Notre Dame defense kept them very much in check until very late, whenever, that becomes a 10-point game.
Yeah.
Sure.
SMU, what Kevin Jennings had done all year, he was not able to do against Penn State. And then Clemson, Cade Klubnik, that boys made a run late. They made a run. They made that a game. Obviously, Texas inevitably ends up winning. And I saw Joel Klatt say during College Game Day, are any of these guys going to talk about Texas's strength of schedule today?
Oh.
And why aren't they doing that? You fucking tell me, Joel. Why wouldn't we talk about that if we felt like it was necessary? We watched the film of Texas and Clemson and kind of knew how that game was going to go. Now, will Texas's strength of schedule get brought up in this particular game against Arizona State? I assume probably not.
No.
Yeah.
I assume it's not a valid storyline. But if Texas makes it to the next one, Joel, I think there is a chance that we will bring up how many big wins do they have throughout the entirety of the season. Maybe we just watch film, Joel. Maybe that's why it wasn't brought up. And if he was trying to say it's because of SEC bias, well, then why did all of us pick Ohio State to beat Tennessee? I don't know. I just feels like you're kind of picking and choosing. Joel, I'm a big fan of Joel.
Oh, yeah.
Was a big fan. And then all of a sudden, I'm reading this. He's like, real chirpy. You're like Lane Kiffin right now. You guys aren't even in the game. Okay, I don't even know what the hell.
Choosing this week.
Yeah, a lot of that. And then the games happening, which leads me back to Kirk Herbstreit. His take on College Game Day was basically the same he gave after Tennessee, Ohio State. And it's like the whole day, are we going to talk? Because he threw Indiana under a bus again.
Sure.
I'm like,
And they were the best of the bunch.
listen, Signetti came out
was
and did
fight.
his thing.
He did.
So he asked for this. Okay, he certainly asked for this. 27-17, that's the closest margin of victory in the entire thing. Yeah, that's the closest.
If you just take away that first 98-yard run.
And the red zone interception.
And a 49-yard field goal in 27-degree weather.
We play one more
OT.
quarter, IU wins that ball game.
If football was 5 or 6 quarters, IU's winning that
There's a
one.
chance.
IU's probably winning.
For sure.
Gronk said it best. Notre Dame's just a better IU.
Gronk said that?
Yeah,
He
Gronk,
did.
Gronk did say that, and I think he was talking like because they're in Indiana. I don't know.
I thought it was
I loved it. I love Joel Klatt, but I did not appreciate that because he was like, "What are you implying that you're saying that I won't say something? Okay, because some conference. Okay, let's all relax. I've made fun of Sarkisian's pants. I've done a lot. Okay, I've done a lot of things. I didn't appreciate that from the Joel Klatt, a man who I have a lot of respect for and appreciation. But it seems like everybody has an opinion on this.
Yeah.
This college football playoff. That's because everybody cares so much.
Yeah.
And it's like the passion was real. It was fantastic start to the 12-team playoff. They're going to move it to 14. How will those games look? We shall see. Maybe the top teams are just a little bit different than
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
Every single year.
Without
That
a
might
doubt.
be the story. Talks Tables here at Boss Connor, at Ty Schmidt. You two crushed it on Saturday night.
I
Hey, thanks, man. You
appreciate
too.
it. So did you. It was a lot of fun. It really
So
was.
cold.
It was, first half, honestly, you get the adrenaline's up and it was really sweet and we were kind of just enjoying it. We got that clutch coffee to come in, got, a couple black coffees that really kind of got the juices going again. And then when we had to go underneath kind of the tunnel there for halftime, and I don't know if there were heaters in there, but it was 30 degrees warmer, and then we had to go back out, and it was like, oh boy, this is going to turn into a blowout real quick. Foot warmers stopped working. I dropped both of my hot hands in the tunnel running down the field. Said, oh boy, it's gonna be a bad.
Where are you
second
from?
half. I'm from Iowa.
Okay, where are you from?
Massachusetts.
I'm from Pittsburgh. You're from Pittsburgh. Now, you're a South Florida boy,
Yep,
but went
yep.
to UConn. With how cold I was, that was literally how I was judging it. I understand that these Tennessee kids can be mentally tough and be physically tough and everything like that.
Bullshit.
But I was born in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I was born in the dark, and I was cold as shit. And it was like, that is an effect on your body, how you perform. That's why everybody warms up. That's like something that you actually do is you try to get the body loose, you try to warm up. Everything's different. The ball is harder, your hands are a little bit more slick. The hits, just a little bit more effect on it. And if you start losing, that snowball, metaphor intended, pun intended, starts rolling, it only gets bigger and bigger. And that Tennessee team was just at the bottom of the hill of that snowball as it was continuing to go. I think the cold mattered so much more than anything else in the college football playoff. Let alone the teams got selected and everything, and Indiana's from the cold, but once again, 27-17, that game ends up in there. Everything else, you can't prepare for that bitter-ass cold that it was. If it would have been, 27 feels like 27, 30 feels like 27, 25. Much different than being 20s in the low 20s feeling like low teens. That means the wind's real. That means it was cold as shit. It was so damn cold out there.
Well,
did not expect it to be like that.
And that's why we asked that question about 1,000 times leading up to these games with everyone we had on. And a lot of it was just like, well, listen, we're not going to be affected by the cold.
It's mindset.
We'll play these games everywhere. Like, it is, but like, you don't get any brownie points for acting like it's not cold and just like running around and saying it's just a mindset.
Wait, you telling me you don't get at least 10 points with the line when you come out and warm up with your shirt off?
You would have thought Tennessee thought that was the case.
A lot of teams do that, huh?
I did appreciate, though, that they sold them. Everybody's talking about the cold being a factor. It's not a factor. We're going out there shirtless. Now,
That guy's on.
I'm not going to say.
I'll say this was a bad look for the strength conditioning program down there in Tennessee. I'm going to tell you that these 20-year-old kids, I see a lot of dad bods out there right now, not
guys are
as jocked as they need to be.
No, they were getting ready for the game. They were adding on a little winter weight or whatever the case. I don't see a single jacked guy. Now, that is the first time I have ever seen a D1 football team, like, legitimately.
It's a big-time program.
That's a huge program. Now, granted, the cold normally helps just by normally look more jacked. Nonetheless, Tennessee team, they come out, they want to prove that it's just a mental thing. I bet you they went back into the locker room after one and were like,
holy shit.
It's not just a mindset. It is not and I think that just came from all of us who played sports in the cold before and just been like, this ain't just something you can just flip the switch on mentally and be like, yeah, it's better. You got to be in it. You got to understand the suck and the misery, which you can't do unless you're practicing inside of it all week. Yeah. That first practice that Ohio State had in the cold this past week or whatever, that's when they have their suck. This sucks. Then on Tuesday, they're back in it. This sucks. Yep. Wednesday, they're back in it. This sucks. Tennessee was trying to get the this sucks out before the game. Yeah. They didn't even have like the full-on mental. And then Jack Sawyer, you would have thought that guy was, he's a Sunday player. Yeah. He's JTT, Jack Sawyer. They took that game over. Oh, yeah. They wanted nothing to do with it. Dylan Sampson, I don't know if we've still gotten an update. He's still not on the field. I guess he has certainly an injury they're dealing with. There is one player from Tennessee that we complimented throughout the evening, and we would like to maintain that here on this beautiful Monday. Nico Iamaleava is a dog. Mm-hmm. And I have very high expectations for him going forward. Every time he took a massive shot, not only from an Ohio State guy, but also from the turf, which is much harder every single time you hit it. He bounced right back up. I think he's a Cali boy. Him coming into that, handling it that way, I think is great for their future. Congrats to Tennessee on a great season. Got your ass beat in the cold. That's going to happen in these playoffs. But for Ohio State, they needed that.
Yes.
They needed that, and it was very evident throughout the entirety of that stadium.
They needed it, and obviously the weather played a factor, but when you look at that roster, which has been talked about a ton even before the season, best, money roster that money can buy, and they showed it. Chip Kelly was in his bag early, and they continued. Will Howard, they executed. I feel like the edges, we talked about it throughout the broadcast, all of the pre-snap eye candy going from left to right, east to west. I feel like Tennessee defense in the middle, that was the only time they were successful when you tried to run between those tackles. But any little quick pass to Ibuka to the outside, to Henderson, to Judkins, and then Jeremiah Smith, anytime you saw him one-on-one with any of the guys down the field, Will Howard, took some shots and was very, very accurate with the football, took care of the football, got their playmakers the ball, and now they executed, throughout the game. And then defensively, you talked about Jack Sawyer. We saw him pregame, talking shit to every person in a Tennessee uniform, whether you were a trainer, male, female, short, tall, lineman, running back, it did not matter. He talked to everybody going into that locker room, kind of setting the tone. Obviously, had the bad loss against Michigan, but they bounced back. They needed this in a big, big way.
I saw this clip was posted, obviously, on X, and a lot of people's first one was, going to be awesome when they get their ass beat. Going to be awesome when they get their ass beat. Going to be awesome when they get their ass beat after seeing Jack Sawyer act like that. So for Jack to do this and then go on to dominate, that's a good payoff. Yeah, that's good payoff. All four home teams, all four favorites, won and covered in the college football playoff.